Heyo everybody, Haku here with the last part of our read-through for Chapter 2 of Magical Girl Raising Project ACES, or Mahou Shoujo Ikusei Keikaku ACES. So yeah, last part of Chapter 2, the first two parts have been really good. This chapter is really focused on Deluge and Flea and what's going on with them and their group, with these new characters coming into it and everything. So I would assume that the last part of this is going to continue on with that. At the very end of the last read through, the second part, we saw some girl coming in to confront Deluge and ask what she's doing, and I'm assuming that that is going to be Bluebell Candy, since we were learning a bit about her and Deluge's flashbacks. So yeah, I'm excited to get into it and to see what's going on this time around. So we're going to be starting from the end kind of ish of page 20 and then going through the end of the chapter. Now I'm probably going to check my recording software a lot because I just don't trust what's going on with it right now, because I recorded a video before this and towards the end of that video it seemed like it sort of might have started to get a little bit laggy, so I'm probably just going to be checking it a bunch just to be sure, since this is a long video and I don't want to lose any of it, you know? But either way, we're starting off here with Bluebell Candy. That was another reason I was assuming it's Bluebell Candy, because I finished that scene and the next one we jump to is Bluebell Candy. But here we go. Bluebell Candy. When she first met Deluge, it was due to the rarity that she was. Not counting the Land of Magic's power, having a magical girl be born with human hands, with a look and feel of a shonen manga. Bluebell, who loved those kinds of things, had her curiosity piqued as she looked at Deluge from behind the pillars. At first glance, it looked like she was ashamed of having interest in her. The girl sitting down with her shoulders slumped, Bluebell felt pity for, yet Bluebell also felt rude for pitying her. Bluebell looked away, but she could never really look away. She simply held the pillar tightly and continued staring at Deluge. She pitied her, yet Deluge still looked beautiful. The beautiful shining jewel on her tiara was similarly blue. While all magical girls were supposed to be pretty and beautiful, she was unlike any magical girl she'd seen before. Bluebell became a candidate for Deluge's caretaker. Would she mind that? Would she want that? The magical girls who badmouthed Deluge began to notice, and began to mess with Bluebell as well, hiding her lunch and her favorite pen, but Bluebell never left Deluge's side. She was never friends with the research and development magical girls before she met Deluge anyway. Bluebell already knew that she'd been badmouthed as well, called a misfit who was useless. That's why she told Deluge, "You'll just be considered an outcast and an obstacle, but I'll let you do what you want." She never left Deluge alone. If she did, Deluge would get broken and disappear. In order for that not to happen, Bluebell had to always be around her. Then slowly, bit by bit, Deluge began opening her heart. She started asking things of Bluebell. I want this, I want to do that. Bluebell gave as much as she could. Sometimes she'd ask for things outside of what she could give, but somehow Bluebell was able to give that to her by staying on her boss's good side. Once, Deluge had shown her a sketchbook. Bluebell had never really drawn before, but when she saw the drawings, she said, "Oh, these are good. Pictures of children smiling happily. Oh, Quake." Bluebell praised the drawings. Quake is so good. Bluebell praised the drawings so much that she thought she made Deluge annoyed, but Deluge just smiled happily. Bluebell, just pictures of children, of course, Quake. Oh man. Bluebell didn't expect Deluge to have that kind of skill. There were other sketchbooks too. Deluge had promised to show them all one day, but before she could fulfill her promise, this whole incident happened. Despite all of this happening, Bluebell didn't feel like abandoning Deluge. She'd be by Deluge's side no matter what, and Deluge needed a magical girl, especially now. If someone was there for her, they'd be able to support her. She was sure of it. On the morning of that day, she heard that Deluge left the R&D building. At first, it simply made Bluebell uncomfortable. Deluge's status as a man-made magical girl meant there'd be magical girls who would want to eliminate her. These heartless magical girls were only another subtype of the same ones that badmouthed her. Bluebell saw the destruction at the laboratory. She tried to contact Deluge, but she couldn't reach her with either text or calls. And Bluebell lost her R&D pass that she kept in her wallet. Either way, she was able to confirm her situation. She felt like she was going to collapse, but she wasn't falling yet. Equipment and chemicals related to man-made magical girls, as well as the research materials for them, had been taken. The two original man-made magical girls that were created based on studying Deluge's kind, as well as new homunculi in their manufacturing books, were stolen as well. Oh, so the Black Wings might be homunculi, and there are two man-made magical girls based on Deluge. So maybe the Armor Girl is one of them? Okay. And their manufacturing tools. The homunculi guards were all destroyed, and the resident researchers all had stab wounds from what looked to be a raid, with a safe that was hit and opened. From what the researchers had told her, the person that raided the facility had characteristics that could only resemble Deluge. All of the circumstantial evidence had pointed to Deluge being the culprit. Or maybe Deluge isn't the culprit, Deluge just escaped on her own, and someone else came in and stole the man-made magical girls. Someone like Grimheart, who I am still fully believing is alive. Okay. Finally, Bluebell went to the room Deluge used to sleep. There she discovered some folded paper lying on top of her bed. When Bluebell finished reading it, she abandoned her duties that afternoon, leaving off to find Deluge. I really like Bluebell already. I really do. But now we are at the end of page 22 and moving on to Monoshiri Michan. The Lily of the Valley magical girl seemed to be an acquaintance of Deluge. There was no reason for Michan and the others to interfere with her unless Deluge asked them to. The Lily of the Valley magical girl and Deluge were still talking about something. So, we have a stranger coming in, huh? Oh, but it looks like they know each other, though. They're sure taking their sweet time. Yep, they sure are. Want some tea? Didn't we just have some? I don't want to get a stomachache now. Well, either way, I've got a favor to ask. Michan placed her bag in her hand, pulling out 3 colored pieces of paper and a magic marker, I love a magic marker, placing it atop the desk. She pushed the pieces toward Dark Cutie. Friend of mine wants you to sign this letter, if you don't mind. Without saying a word, Dark Cutie took the magic marker, popping out the cap with a satisfying sound, then scribbled on the papers. Phew, well, aren't you the famous magical girl? So used to being asked for autographs, it's just second nature, huh? That's what happens when an anime gives you name recognition. Yeah, especially when that anime is from the Cutie Healer series. That's a major title right there, you know? I'd like to try being in an anime just once. Maybe they'll call it Super Glasses or something. She knew about the gossip surrounding Dark Cutie. During the middle of a broadcast, a scandal that befell the top brass of the Public Relations Division regarding a Cutie Healer character was brought to light, so they had to switch the heads of the division, alerting the team in the direction of the show. You could say that it brought Dark Cutie's character arc to an abrupt end. Michan had only ever visited Dark Cutie's home once in the past. She thought that Dark Cutie was in a bad mood, living in a 50-year-old apartment, watching Cutie Healer episodes from beginning to end in a dark room. Last time, Dark Cutie was looking at the scene where the anime Dark Cutie swore revenge on the protagonist and disappeared off into the crowd. That's when the real Dark Cutie turned off the DVD. Switching the screen at the same time. Now there was a caster sitting in the center of the screen. Michan remembered vividly the image of a 4 and 8-year-old girl having bomb wounds on her body after an explosion at a market. Oh yeah, have you heard about what they're doing next season? The next Cutie Healer. It does seem like they finished with the candidate selections, aren't they? See, that's the thing. Looks like they're back to square one on the candidate selections. What, again? Their social media posted something related to the next Cutie Healer. Glacienne placed her finger on her slipping glasses. On her slipping glasses, got it. Placing them back into position. She deliberately sighed out, heaving her shoulders exaggeratingly. Why would they do something like that? Such a waste. Waste of potential, huh? Right. I mean, I want an anime too. Yeah, you told me earlier. Magical glasses, right? That's super glasses. You should remember it better, Michan. To a magical girl, having an anime was like a status symbol. It was also quite romantic. When you've watched magical girl anime as a child, then become the extraordinary existence that is a magical girl, there was no reason not to long for an anime of your own. Even magical girls in more underground businesses like Michan and Glacienne would often wish for anime adaptations. Or rather, it was probably because they were in such underground businesses that they'd prefer an anime adaptation instead. I love this. I love getting into this stuff. My, what kind of magical girl posts about things in social media? She shouldn't do things like that. Speak for yourself, though it's not like they're posting things about people doing extravagant things. Besides, I'm pretty sure there's plenty of magical girls posting anonymously. So you're saying if they post anonymously it would leak out, huh? That's a waste too. Such a waste that there'd be no point in posting in the first place. Sure, it's anonymous, but if you look closely at their behavior, I'm sure you'd know who they are in an instant. Oh, I get it. I'm done. With a slam, Michan looked and saw a beautiful thing on the desk, the autograph of a celebrity on colored paper that Dark Cutie pointed toward. Drawn on the corner of the colored paper was a chibi version of Dark Cutie's face. Thank you very much. Michan took the paper and placed it carefully in the plastic bag once more, I'd assume. Say, leader, are you a social media kind of person? I have no reason for it. See, our leader's a smart one, she is. I see. She'd never purposely do anything risky like that now, would she? The conversation slowly turned to that of work. Fighting the person that killed Patricia might be hard on us. We already discussed that. I can bring it up again as many times as needed. That's not the issue here. Dark Cutie lowered her tone of voice. The person who killed Patricia, she was a magical girl that used a trident for a weapon. Glacienne adjusted her glasses. Michan raised an eyebrow. So that means... Michan saw Deluge at the edge of her vision. She was still busy with the Lily of the Valley magical girl. Her trident was still standing upright. We seem to be in a troubling situation. I've also heard that there are some new demons that were made. No matter how they look at it, the 4 black square silhouettes floating around Deluge could only be described as new demons. Dark Cutie responded to Glacienne's remarks, probably intentionally. We aren't in a position to decide what situation we should be dealing with. It's actually good if we've got a powerful ally on our side. We should appreciate that. In the corner of her eye, Deluge stood up, looking this way. The expression on her face had changed. Part of it was angry, but there was some part that was happy. There was a report from the scouts. The magical girls from Puck-Puck's mansion got into a fight. They were last seen in Central Park. After saying those words, 2 black demons flew upwards, carrying Deluge by holding her up on both sides. As they flew, the remaining demons flew along with them, eventually disappearing into the distance. They were fast. Not just Deluge, but the enemy had moved faster than they thought. I'm guessing she's thinking if we can't follow her, then there's no need to, huh? Michan sighed. All 3 of them stood up together. They weren't just going to be left there and not get their salaries. Counter to posture. Michan lifted up the table in her hand and changed it into a large piece of paper. Counter to poster. Okay then. She turned the table into a piece of paper. It was a large 4-meter square poster paper. Michan held up the right side of the paper and Glacienne held up the left, and Dark Cutie, with her eyes toward the sun, spread out both her arms to make wide wings. The shadow wings being projected on the poster began to flap, and Michan and Glacienne released their hold on the poster. They didn't have to hold it up any more now. Dark Cutie held on to Michan as if she were like a princess, and after a while Glacienne climbed on too. When they flew up using Dark Cutie's large shadow wings, the Lily of the Valley magical girl jumped up all of a sudden, clinging to Dark Cutie's legs, shaking its stability a little. During the daytime, stability and a high altitude so as to avoid bystanders is crucial. I'm sorry, but could you take me with you? Fine. Guess it's not really a problem if you're Deluge's acquaintance, but you're in charge of protecting yourself. Got it? Okay, so her power must be to control shadows, and so she needs shadow or something to project shadow on for it to work, I would assume. But either way, now we're on to page 28 with an interlude. Alright, we have Shadowgale here. Interlude Shadowgale. The armor magical girl was still staring at her. She closed the door to the exit. That door was extremely heavy, even for magical girls, and the armor girl closed it just like it was nothing. Shadowgale never really got a good look at the armor girl before. She was too busy piggybacking on Patricia's back to even notice. Only now did she see her. clad in armor, no emotion showing due to her helmet, standing in a very strange posture, was a magical girl. Looked more like a horror movie villain. "What are you?" asked Shadow Gale. She was scared. This is something she's never exactly met before, and the strength of this armor girl was incredible. Not only that, she seemed to be able to keep up with Patricia, which was something normal magical girls would have had a hard time doing. Where was she? Who was this armor girl? There was a clanking noise, the armor girl tilting her head sideways. Then she raised her arms. She began waving. Gestures. Can she not speak? Can she only communicate with gestures? Shadow Gale stood up. "Could I ever leave this place?" she asked the armor girl. Again, the armor girl simply tilted her head. Maybe she didn't understand spoken words. Maybe she needed to be communicated via gestures too. What kind of magical girl is that? So there's always the chance that she could be an interesting magical girl, or she could be somebody in disguise, like one of the Shufflin or Grimheart. I know that's kind of out there, but she could always be somebody in disguise. But I don't think so. I think the armor girl is her own thing. Okay. What kind of magical girl is that? Shadow Gale pointed toward the door, and she curved her arms and began moving it back and forth. She also began walking in place really fast. She was imitating running. "Let me out," is what she was trying to say. The armored girl raised her right palm and made a stop signal to Shadow Gale. She also shook her head no. Guess that's a no. Shadow Gale sighed. She had to escape. There were things she needed to stop. Flea's plan can't be put into motion. If Snow White tried to investigate Flea and Flea won't cooperate, the kill switch was supposed to be Shadow Gale. Shadow Gale was supposed to be the last resort if Flea goes completely over the edge, but she can't do that if she's being kept. Why was she being kept? Was she being kidnapped for a ransom? Negotiation? Did they have a grudge against Flea? Was this related to Flea's job? Was it related to the Land of Magic, and not Flea specifically? After all, Flea was human resources. She wondered if these people knew about Shadow Gale herself. They probably saw her as only a servant of Flea. It would make sense, as both her and Flea gave out this image. Shadow Gale took a deep breath. "Well, if I'm going to be staying here, could I at least get some entertainment? A TV, maybe?" asked Shadow Gale. The armor girl tilted her head again. "TV. Television." She tilted her head to the other side. "All right, gestures only." Shadow Gale made a rectangle with her arms and then mimicked watching into the rectangle, and she sat down, watching the rectangle in her arm. "Television," she mouthed while miming it. The armor girl clapped her hands and nodded. "Oh, maybe she's deaf. That could always be a possibility." The armor girl clapped her hands and nodded. She immediately left the room and closed the door. "Well, I guess that answers it. She probably had her captors, she and probably her captors don't know about Shadow Gale's powers. If she got a television, she could modify it into so many things. Probably nothing too major, since she still needed it to look like a television, and she didn't have many tools to work with. Some things she thought of: a spy camera, an encrypted video messaging system, a broadcasting device. She could tell Flea where she was, and maybe Flea could make a plan to get her out. Or could she modify the TV to shoot out death rays instead of light rays? No, maybe not death. Sleep rays. Was that a thing? The armor girl came back running with a huge cardboard box. She carried it back to the room and dropped it in front of Shadow Gale. She nodded and pointed to the box. Shadow Gale took a deep breath and slowly she opened the box and looked inside to find a miniature portable toilet. This wasn't what she asked for. She looked at the armor girl with a nervous smile. The armor girl gave a thumbs up and nodded. Gesture communication was going to be harder than she thought. Okay. Can she make a death beam out of the toilet? But okay. I like this. All this was good. We have some more comedy that kind of plays into the whole psychological and important plot stuff with Shadow Gale and the Armor Girl. And we got more stuff with Bluebell, who I really like already, and Mi-chan, who I like. I like Dark Cutie. I like Glacian. I like Glacian a lot more now. And I already liked her because of her backstory that we learned a bit last time. So yeah, I really enjoy this group, and I love Snow White's current group. Her current group is amazing. So yeah, I really like the characters this arc has set up. This arc has done an amazing job in the first 2 chapters to really set up the characters and make them likable. Except Patricia, who was killed off before we could really learn anything about her, but that happens sometimes in this series. And also, she may potentially not be dead. I personally think she is, but maybe not. So now we have the chance, potentially, that the Armor Magical Girl could be deaf, or maybe they just can't hear inside the suit of armor. But them being deaf would also explain why they can't speak. Or there's also the chance, the things we learned, that they could be a man-made magical girl, because there were 2 man-made magical girls made after Deluge's model. So they could be one of them, and that means there's another one out there somewhere. We also don't know who it necessarily was that drove Deluge to do this, that is her conspirator. I mean, Bluebell's obviously her conspirator, but they also made it seem like there was somebody passing her information that would lead her to go to do what she's doing now, where it seems like Bluebell isn't necessarily in on that. She just genuinely cares about Deluge and wants to help her in that sense. So yeah, all this was really, really cool. I really enjoyed it. And next week I'll be back with the first part of Chapter 3. So either way, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did like the video, comment down there to tell me what you thought of this week's part of the chapter, what you thought of Chapter 2, what you thought of my thoughts on it and reaction and all that. Subscribe for more Magical Girl Raising Project, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel, or talk to you there. If you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us about this series or anything else, it's free and open for anyone. And if you want to help support the channel on Patreon, it would really, really, really help keep the channel going. And patrons get to suggest and vote on new series to cover on Sundays weekly. So yeah, every 3 months I'll be picking a new series to cover on Sundays, and patrons get to vote on that. So yep, that's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.